Welcome into MJT Football. I'm your host, Tony Tucker. I am joined by Joe Morley. We're going to be getting into the schedule release stuff, making crazy, unsubstantiated opinions about everything. But let's just take a moment when we play this video to celebrate the undisputed back-to-back schedule release champions, the Los Angeles Chargers.
Oh, every time I hear that, I just start.
Yes, feeling good, feeling great. Love having all the schedules out there and about, and reading comments on the internet and listening to sports talk. It is very amusing, but at the same time, like, I'm guilty of it too. And we're gonna get into some of the stuff that I've gleaned just from schedules. Like, we already knew how they played, but then you look at certain things and you're like, "Whoo, some of this shit is brutal." But again, MJT Football. If you're listening to the audio version, come on over to YouTube and hit the subscribe button. Hit a little reset there. We're three friends who love talking football, but we're always looking for a fourth. So please consider subscribing and talking football with us. Harrison's already in here. Hello, Harrison. Good morning. Hope you're doing well. You should be excited. I thought the Panthers had a solid layout to their schedule, and really it's just going to come down to whether or not Bryce Young can limit the turnovers and the defense can duplicate what it did last year. So it's going to be interesting. I don't have really any thoughts on the Panthers, Joe, but how you doing? What do you want to talk about? What's good?
No, I'm good. I know some people are like, what's the big deal about the schedule? It's just more excitement. It's just something that we look forward to. And now you can actually piece it together and be like, okay, they got to go on the road here. They got to do this. And it's more for us fans of planning our schedule coming up. Like, okay, I want to go see this game. So I know that because the Raiders Steelers, that game, that's a big game that I was looking forward to. I had to know what day it is because I got a bunch of Steeler fans in my family and we got to go. Well, the 2 years in a row, Tony, the schedule makers screwed me up and they put the Raiders Steelers as the opening game in Vegas this year, week 3. So, of course, they want to get money out of me because now I got to go and not only buying Raiders Steelers, that we're going to be okay, but now we got to buy opening day prices. It's going to kick my butt, but there you go. But it's just the dates are important. And I thought the Chargers social media did a real good job again. They did another anime and they bashed some people in them. You got to really look into it to see what they did. I thought the Tennessee Titans had a very good release video. I don't know if you saw that one, Tony.
Yeah, that's a fun one. It's kind of like it's almost like a walk and talk without talking, and like those are really hard for people who don't understand production. The timing that goes in with what they're on like a dolly on a cart, and they're just sort of following. And if one person messes up their cue, their walk, their cut, their flip, their turn, it messes up everything because you need to get it in one continuous shot. Like, those are really tough. I thought they did a tremendous job getting that together. It was fun.
And then me being biased, I really like the Raider one. The Raider one didn't come out with the actual. I don't know if you saw it. The Raider one.
I did, and I'm going to give you props.
I really like that one, and I'm like, wait, the Raiders have a social media team? When did that happen? Like, when did that happen? But I thought that video was pretty damn good.
So I was listening this morning when I was driving my kids to school. I didn't know what to listen to, and the first thing that popped up on my YouTube feed was Tom Grassi was live, the Packcast or whatever his show is. And they were talking about a lot of stuff, and they had a backup quarterback from the Packers and maybe a few other teams, Kurt Benkert, on there. And he was making a really good point about social media and the direction that it's headed. And this is something that I've said before in the past, is like, at some point, if I'm lucky enough to live long enough, football will turn into what baseball became. An archaic, outdated, older people are into it because, like, my kids and our kids in general, they don't consume things the way that we did. They don't consume TV the way that we did, or even sports. Like, they're very much like, you were always making fun of bandwagon fans, and you see that. Like, this younger generation really is going to be, they're not restricted to area code and I'm going to support this team until the day I die. They're looking for fun, ways that you can connect with them. And that's why the Chargers are so great. Like, my son's not really into football, but we bonded over anime because he loves anime. So he was hoping they would do another release video like this. They even did like a behind the scenes so they could like break down. So both of my boys are into animation and want to potentially pursue that as a career. That is an opportunity for me to bond with my kids and for them to go, oh yeah, are you more into football because of this? So I think a lot of teams are going to start finding ways to engage with younger people. They have to find ways to engage with the future because it's like, for our generation, like, we just want the same old thing. Like, I'm kind of set in my ways. Like, I don't really like the Manning cast. It's not really for me. It doesn't matter how much I hate the broadcast. I would much rather listen to that or nothing at all.
You just hate on everything, Tony. But before we get into some of the schedules, and let's just get into some of the top news before we do it. We'll spend a little quick time for everybody who's in here. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and if you guys have questions, go ahead and throw it in the chat, and we'll get to them in a minute. What's saying what's up? Adam's in here Adam. Saying what's up. You guys want to say what's up to us? We'll bring you on. We'll pop your comments on the screen. It's all fun and games, but this is just the excitement of the NFL season. I'm excited, Tony. You already said the Chargers won the schedule. I looked at the Chargers and the Chargers. Everything I wanted from the Chargers, it happened for me. I'm not a Charger fan, but everything I needed to. You saw a lot of the primetime games. We'll get into those, but a lot of good teams. We're going to be. What I like about the schedule, real quick, before we get into the NFL news, is the change of the primetime games, the new teams that are going to be introduced on the primetime, which is very good to me. But NFL news, Tony, and we'll start with my team, the Las Vegas. Oh, I
want to do one more thing, and I'm not in any hurry, Joe. I don't know if you are or not. You can tell me to be quiet. Two other shout out. The Cowboys, real good job on the schedule release. I'm a big fan of Yellowstone. I thought that was very funny. A good way to go there. The Cleveland Browns animation one I thought was really funny. And the Raiders. Like, the Raiders was really good, like doing the jokes where they get the message and he's like, we got grapes, eat more grapes, lift more weights. Like, those type of things to me are good. They're funny. And then the Steelers is the last one I want to give a shout out to. They did sort of like a dodgeball parody of the scene where you're throwing back to that. I thought the Steelers one too made me laugh, where anytime that you could get a voiceover guy who's taking shots, that was really good. And I haven't seen them all, but from the 10 or so that I watched, maybe more than that, those were my favorite ones. I thought they had some real good jokes in there. Yeah, let's go into news. Right. Joe, you roll into news. Take over. This is a big announcement, big day for you.
So this coming out today that the Raiders, big news in the Raiders, right here. Tom Brady in talks with Mr. Mark Davis to become a minority stake owner in the Las Vegas Raiders. I guess it's been going on for months of getting him in there. Well, if they couldn't bring him in as a quarterback, Tony, maybe they thought we'll bring him in somehow, right? So Tom Brady, Mark Davis. I don't think Tom, as a minority owner, you won't have say in a lot of stuff, but it's Tom Brady, and you have him representing the Raiders, and he's already brought in TB12 is already incorporated in one of the casinos down there. So he's already bringing his business to Vegas. Now he just wants to make money out of it.
So Tom Brady's a genius, and he gets things right. And I think that, like, they couldn't get him as quarterback to start the year, but doesn't this feel a little bit like, hey, if you're kind of already in the ownership group or whatever, like, let's say if something happens to Jimmy G, you might want to just be close, tied into the organization. Obviously, like, if I had a tinfoil hat, I'd put it on. But this feels almost like a move of like, hey, we're going to let you invest in the team, and the team might actually need you this year. Like, how cool would it be to see an owner player? Like, we've not seen that in the NFL, and this is something I think could be legit. Like, they could give him a little tap on the shoulder and say, hey, time to get out of the booth and dust it off, get out there and win a couple games for your boys.
I'm looking at these pictures, and I see two Tom Bradys right there. It's crazy how much these two guys look alike, Tony.
I don't normally count on the like comment on the aesthetics of people, but this is like opposite ends of the spectrum as far as like, you know, it's I'm enough. I'm done. I don't want to
Well,
go
doesn't
into
it seem like this would be perfect for like somebody like Tom Brady, like singers and bands and all that, and actors at the end of their career, they go in Vegas and they get a residency, right? This is Tom Brady's quarterback residency in Vegas. Hey, come to the Raider game. You'll get to see Tom Brady. You'll get to do all this. Stay at the hotel. Be a part of TB12 and the TB12 experience live on the Strip right here in Vegas.
Well, so that was the thing to me. I watched the Patriots schedule release video and they did like sort of it's like a retired Legends house announcement with the Patriots. And at the very end, spoiler alert, everybody, there's a knock at the door and it's TB12. And so it's like they're welcoming him back because the Patriots on opening day are honoring Tom Brady. Like, how is he supposed to be in Vegas if he's a new owner there for the first game there, but also being honored in New England? Like, we might need to have some sort of doppelganger in one of those two locations. And I think it would probably be in Las Vegas. So what I was reading was he doesn't get in any say in player personnel. Like, there's no real perks. It's just sort of like buying a stake like buying a stake in the company, investing there. I think maybe potentially it could, grow to be more, or maybe if he wants to get more into the front office. I've always said that I just don't believe that Tom Brady wants to be a commentator on games. Like, I just don't think that the greatest quarterback of all time wants to be doing homework every week on these teams. Like, he feels bigger than that. I don't want to diss Troy Aikman because Troy Aikman was a dude of his generation. It just doesn't feel like that's where Tom would be headed post-career.
See, and the rumors came out that he was going to probably back out of his deal with Fox. And this is it. Like, basically, it sounds like he's taking the Magic Johnson approach, right? Just get a little bit in here, a little bit there, a little bit here and there, and you'll be all right. Joker came in. He says, doesn't everyone own the Raiders? That was going to be a joke that I said later, but Tom Brady has already owned the Raiders for years, so it doesn't matter. Now we're just making it official, but I don't know what to think of this. Like, as a Raider fan, I mean, if it brings money or brings something better to the organization, I'm all for it. Anything in a positive light is good for the Raiders, so I'll take anything I can. I mean, I didn't want Tom Brady as a quarterback, but I would have took him. But I mean, it just sounds like Mark Davis is doing it. He's making smart moves. Let's just say that he's bringing the right people in and doing some good stuff since they've been in Las Vegas.
I hope he has the same effect MJ had on the Charlotte Bobcats. Congratulations, Tom Brady. He already owns a stake in the Las Vegas Aces, so he's already invested there, like you said, with the TB12. He's smart. He's gonna get it. He like at one point I saw he bought a professional pickleball team too. So I think he's moving more towards that side. And I think the NFL would love for Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or any of these former greats to be becoming the face of ownership in these organizations.
Well, let's stay right on track, Tony, and we'll move on to same division. New player or a top player in this is Kadarius Toney. So you're asking, is Toney a number one wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs?
I'm not asking it. I just read reports saying that the Chiefs believe that he can be the new number one. And the only thing that I can really look at is I think he had one game with the Giants where he was targeted a bunch and dominated. And that's like, if you're part of the fantasy football community like we are, that was the game that had everybody chasing after Kadarius Toney. Like, even when he was injured, you'd still pick him. You'd still use like a waiver claim on him or whatever, like to get him at the end of your roster. But he's just never really paid off. And I guess like I see it talent wise, but I don't know. Like, don't you need to stay healthy at some point for an extended period of time to prove that you can handle the rigors of the NFL? Like, to be a number one, I think the first thing you have to have is availability. Like Michael Thomas is a number one, but he hasn't been healthy for 3 seasons. So like that's the first thing. If you're going to be the number one, you got to be on the field.
Well, he's entering his third season as a pro, Tony. Third season as a pro. This is only his third season. And Kansas City right now has Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They have Tony. They have Sky Moore. And then who they have? Justin Watson, Richie James. After that, so it's not a big depth chart like you're saying. So, yeah, he's going to be forced to be that number one guy. I know we're taking a little bit of credit away from Travis Kelce, who probably is their number one wide receiver playing.
He is there, yeah.
But Tony has 55 catches for 591 yards, Tony, and 2 TDs in 2 seasons. In 2 seasons. And then all that drama that he had with the Giants where they said that he might have been faking injuries or not. Then he got traded to them, and he's like, I was just faking it the whole time and admitting to it. I don't know. That's not the kind of guy. But Andy Reid sometimes works his magic on players like this. We all know the talent, but I don't see him, if he can't be on the field, how can he be a number one wide receiver? I think Kansas City got lucky last year with some of the play of Juju Smith and their wide receiver position, but to disrespect their wide receiver position this much and this guy being your number one, I think you're asking for football gods to do a lot for you, and you're asking for Patrick Mahomes to do a lot.
Yeah, so Harrison in the comments here says as long as they have Patrick Mahomes, it's fine. And I do agree with that to a very large extent. I think that quarterbacks, when they are of a certain level, can make okay receivers good, good receivers great, and great receivers Hall of Fame all-time type level. Like that is, they will elevate wherever you are at. A great quarterback can take you to the next level. So again, this isn't a question of Tony's ability, because I think he's a dynamic player, which is when you have Andy Reid, he's going to get the most out of you. I don't think what they did with Juju was lucky. I think that's more of actual evidence of how great Andy Reid has been. You know, it's like we all see it. My wife saw, husband one potential in me. Like she did. She was hoping, and a lot of things they came through for her. Like am I able to still be a good guy, a faithful guy? Is the loyalty going to be there after the 6 months? She bet on that, and she's winning. She picked the husband one. That's me. And I'm doing a good job. I'm trying to do my best. Trying to go into the husband Hall of Fame, basically. Tony is there and reliable. Like he will be a solid number one wide receiver because of the ways that they're going to be able to use him. Like that's just, it's there. I just wonder, like, is that too big of an expectation for somebody that is had trouble staying on the field? That's all.
See, and I'm questioning myself if the Kansas City Chiefs are looking to go more run this offseason. Just looking at the moves that they made and the 2 big offensive tackles that they brought in, they improved that offensive line a little bit more. And with Isaiah Pacheco going into his second year, I wonder if and we've always talked about Kansas City not getting that run game going until later in the season. I wonder if he's going to make a commitment to that early in the season. Just looking at the Chiefs and looking at their wide receiver position where, they're good guys, they're good role players, and one of them will step up as the number one guy, and it's probably going to be Tony. But I'm just saying maybe they are changing their offense just a little bit to try to, save Patrick Mahomes from those big hits that he's been taking during the season.
Patrick Mahomes did the scariest thing that you could do as a great quarterback. And the thing that I think he got a lot of comparisons to Favre. The thing Favre never did was Mahomes exercised self-control last year. And when you can match all-time talent and ability, we always talk about the arm talent, the ability to improvise and make plays on the run. If you can now fold in self-control, that takes you to a whole nother level because you still have the ability to make all that magic happen. And you're taking the checkdowns, you're playing underneath, you're waiting to go over the top. So like Patrick Mahomes went to another level last season, and I think that's what is bad for the NFL and bad for me as a Chargers fan. Like I was really hoping he'd be like, it doesn't matter if I have Tyreek, I'm still gonna whip the ball all over the field, and they just didn't do that. They made smart plays. They still had big plays in their offense, and they made the most out of what they had when a lot of people last season were like, this is not good enough for the Chiefs to repeat. And they did it again.
They did it again.
Did it again.
And another one. And another
Yep.
one.
Nice. Let's go to our last news topic, and then we'll get into some like deeper in the schedule talk. We're already 23 minutes in. Yes, Joe, right here. You want to introduce this topic? We already.
This is the Saints running back room. Something that is going to be interesting to watch this year, where you don't know with AK's information about his trial and all that, what's going to happen with him, his suspension looming, if he's going to be on there. So they brought in two running backs this year. Kendre Miller in the draft from TCU, and Jamal Williams, one of our favorite running backs, just personality-wise and the way he led the NFL in touchdowns last year rushing, right, Jamal Williams?
17.
And then you have the new quarterback, of course, with Derek Carr right here, boom, in there as a quarterback. So you're gonna want to protect Derek Carr, right? Because the Saints want to look smart by signing Derek Carr, so they want to be able to get him a running game and a pass and some wide receivers. So the question for you, Tony, is that you're looking at this depth chart. AK's your number one guy. If he's gone, which one of these two are stepping up?
So I think that Kendre Miller was a really sneaky running back to get in this draft. Like, he had a great year at TCU. And when TCU beat Michigan, like, if he doesn't go down with an injury, I think he went like late first quarter. He had, against a good Michigan defense, he had like 57 yards on 8 carries. Excuse me. He was like 7 yards a carry in that game. Like, he's a good running back. And then if the Saints offensive line can and progress and move in a positive direction, that's a sneaky move for this guy to be in there and potentially capitalize if Alvin Kamara can't be there. Like, we don't know if the NFL is going to have suspensions or whatever it is, but this to me is one of the best running back rooms in the NFL, because I'm a big fan of Jamal Williams. Like, that guy scores in, down, around the end zone. And then you have somebody like Alvin Kamara, who has been a top back in the NFL. Like, I just think that Kendre Miller can be could prove to be a number one back, right? And then you got two other guys
he has the speed. He has the quick movements where he gets inside the offensive line, like inside the tackles, where he can make those little quick moves and go. And his leg strength, Tony Miller's leg strength, it's going to take more than one person to take him down most of the time. Even though he's a small guy, he has good leg strength that keeps him up and keeps him going. So I agree with you. Like, I was like, why are we talking about Miller when you hit me up earlier? And I was like, then I looked at the room and then I was looking at this graph and I'm like, okay, now I understand, because for a 4th round selection, what a great pick by the New Orleans Saints. Like, we're looking back at the draft, like, okay, there they go, let's get it going. And now you have so many weapons. I would like, I don't know, if there was a great offensive genius that could somehow put all 3 of these guys on the field at one time, I wouldn't know how to defend it.
Well, I think you could go back to they used to have some 3-back sets. What was it called? Like the T-wing, or like one of those like weird offenses from like the 60s where they had 3 running backs. And you could have something like that and then send Kamara in motion or whatever. So the reason we brought it up is because I read a report where the Saints were saying Kendre Miller has huge upside. And then that to me kind of signaled like maybe the Saints know that there is some sort of suspension coming sooner than later. Like, it seemed like the Jaguars knew that there was a suspension coming for their tackle, and they started to maybe look away from the secondary and more at like, hey, we need to make sure our offensive line is legit week 1 because we have expectations and we want to protect Trevor Lawrence. It's also just a good pick to grab an offensive lineman in the 1st round of the draft if there's a guy that you grade out that highly. But I think this is a really good, dynamic, can score touchdowns, can catch the ball. Like, this is a good backfield. I know Harrison, who's a Panthers fan, doesn't want to hear it. Yeah, this is a good unit right here. Saints RB room.
Panther fans aren't scared, Tony. They ain't scared.
Ain't never scared. You just keep pounding. There it is. Let's pound on to the next topic. The next.
So the next topic will be our NFL schedule.
Yes.
Thoughts on the schedule. We mentioned some of it earlier about it that we were talking about it. A lot of teams are high. A lot of like I was going through, Tony, and I was like looking at what schedule makers are supposed to look at and not do. Whoever made the schedule this year broke a lot of those rules. Like the teams aren't supposed to play more than 2 road games consecutively. They're not supposed to play a road game after a Monday night game on the road. Division games are supposed to be a little bit separated, so you're not playing like division games, multiple the multiple division games in a row. They're supposed to do that. A lot of these are broken. Like a lot of these rules, I'm like looking at it because I've seen there's what team is it? There's one team that plays Monday night on the road, turns around, plays on the road again. Look at Jacksonville Jaguars. They're testing out the Jacksonville Jaguars. If you guys don't understand what's going on, they're testing the Europe market right now this year with the Jacksonville Jaguars playing 2 games, one in London, one in Germany, back-to-back weeks. Did you see that, Tony? I don't know if you saw that. So Jacksonville will be over there back-to-back weeks. That's going to be the first time that we kind of saw that to see how teams adjust over there and play over there on back-to-back weeks. So Jacksonville Jaguars, if you're a Jacksonville Jaguar fan, there you go. You see that. Other than that, Tony, I mean, there's some other teams that we have graphics of that I want to. There's one that in particular I want to talk about. But was there any games that stuck out in your mind that you want to see this season?
So I'm going to get at the end of the show. I'll do my top 5 list, right, of my primetime games. But just some thoughts on the schedule. I like the back-to-back double headers, week 2, week 3, because early on in the season, like you're so ready and pumped for football, and fantasy football is at its peak. You're like, I just want as much football as I can possibly see. So it's much easier for me to watch 2 games on Monday night than it is for me to try and keep track of that extra game that they would fold into Sunday. And I think that the NFL really is experimenting with how this is going to work if they did decide to have 4 teams on Monday Night Football more often, like
so
throughout.
I like that, Tony. We talked about more Monday Night Football games, more doubleheaders on Monday night. Would rather have more on Monday night than on Thursday night. But the only thing I had a problem with, and I was looking back at these doubleheaders, is I wish they would have included more West Coast teams on the Monday night schedule, and not started it like I think they're starting one at 7:14, which is 4:15 Pacific time, and another one at 8:15 Eastern, which is 5:00 here. I kind of wish they would have separated a little bit. Where I know it's going to be later on the East Coast, but I wish they would have gave us more of a gap than 1 hour in between. Like start the game at 5:00 over on 5:00 on the East Coast, which would be 2:00 here. I know a lot of football fans are still at work and stuff, but trust me, when football's on, people find a way to watch football. And it's Monday Night Football, I'm going to find a way to watch football at 2:00. I wake up at 6:00 in the morning to watch a London game. You don't think I'm going to find a way to watch a game at 2:00 in the afternoon? And if you tell me that Mondays are now 2:00, we're going to watch them from 2 p.m. on the West Coast all the way to 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I'm down. You're giving me 2 days of football. I'm going to find a way. If we got to find a way to get off work early, call in sick, whatever you're going to do, people are going to do what they got to do to watch football. That was my only thing. Like I'm looking at it, like I wish there was a way that they would have the only way you do it is you put the West Coast teams on the late game, and that's the only way you got to do it. But I know they did it with the matchups, and we got to take what we can get, and I like it. It's a start.
Well, see, I'm a fan of it because I can easily watch 2 games at once. Like the plays rarely overlap. When there is a big play, like my attention will be drawn in whatever direction is necessary. So I was a fan of them doing that. And then the other thing that I noticed was we had the everybody clamoring for the Lions to get a primetime game, right? More primetime games. And I think they did. They got quite a few primetime games this year. I think it was 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Opening night in KC in one of the loudest stadiums when they're getting and they're full of juice. Not to mention, you get Andy Reid preparing for this game for the next 4 months or 5 months, whatever it is. Like, this is just a brutal opening for the Lions. Now, the Lions obviously have the opportunity to come out there and shock the world on Monday night. I think it was last year. The Bills, didn't they like slap the Rams on the opening night? Wasn't that the game where the Bills came out here for the opening game of the season and Josh Allen like stiff armed one of the players, like Back to the Future? It was, but that's the Bills. Like, the Bills had Super Bowl hype expectations. The Lions, everybody's hoping they win the division and get into the playoffs and stuff like that. Like, I just thought it was going to be a bigger game, but they're saying, hey, the Lions are ready for prime time. They're not going to disappoint. But it just feels like, to me, a tough matchup. And I could see this game getting really out of control to open the season. Like, Patrick Mahomes just putting on a show. I know teams, like, you think, like, oh, well, it could go the other way. They won't be focused. They're worried about banners. This is the Chiefs. Like, this is a team that has shown they'll go to back-to-back Super Bowls. Like, they'll be right there. They've been in 5 straight AFC Championship games. I don't think focus is going to be, it's not like, it's like the Patriots playing on the opening game of the season. We knew they were going to be locked in for those games because it's Belichick. Like, this is Andy Reid. This team is going to be ready to go and fired up with the juice of that crowd. Like, it just feels like a bad beat for the Lions on Monday night.
Lion fans, yes, you get to see your team 4 times on national games, but they also got hit on the back end of their schedule. After their last 5 games, 4 of them are on the road.
I did see that. That was not
like they were like, hey, we like the Lions, but also, boom, let's hit them with this. Tony, there's 4 teams. Let me ask you about this. There's 4 teams that got no primetime games at all. I don't know if you know that. The Indianapolis Colts, the Arizona Cardinals, the Houston Texans, and the Atlanta Falcons. All 4 of those teams, no primetime games. This year it's a little different where NFL can flex more games, but as of right now, none of those.
Didn't the Falcons get a Thursday night game like early on in the season? Are we not counting that one?
I'm not counting. I don't think they have it.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought I saw the Falcons on there early, like Falcons Jaguars on Thursday Night Football or something like that early on in the season. Anyways, doesn't matter. All of those teams are right. Like, they are in a situation where they could be bad. They could be figuring it out. And the NFL did the right thing where it's like, if you're going to feature your product, put the best, the games that you project out to be the best. Like, Harrison, when is this? So if anybody listening to the audio version, Harrison's always in here hanging out with us. One of the best football fans out there, Carolina Panthers. He has in here that the Panthers are playing their first Monday Night Football game since 2016, which was shocking to me because I would have assumed Cam was still there and relevant. Like, why wasn't Cam Newton on Monday Night Football? But when is that game for the Panthers? Because I'm not sure when that game is, but is that a game that could be potentially flexed out now that they're flexing Monday Night Football games? Like, is that game happening in December where they might flex the Panthers out? Because now that I believe that's an option this year, they're going to be able to flex out a couple of Monday Night Football games.
So, Tony, it's the Falcons versus Jaguars game. It's in London, is what he's saying.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, they're missing out. They're missing out on the dynamic duo of Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke.
So, Tony, let's talk a little bit about our teams real quick because there's some things that I looked about our things. So the Raiders and Chargers, the AFC West has some tough opponents this year. So if you're, and that's what I think we were looking at like at the preseason and we were like, damn, there's some tough teams. It's just the way the schedule works out for them and see how they play. So the Raiders, the one good thing about the Raiders schedule, if you guys break down the Raiders schedule, from Halloween to Christmas, the Raiders only have to leave the Las Vegas area or that little area one time. So they're going to be basically home for 2 months doing their thing. They got to start on the road for 2 months or two. The first 2 weeks are on the road. The second week flying all the way to Buffalo. But from October to from Halloween to Christmas, the Raiders will be playing like 5 games and a bye week, and they only have to travel once outside of that little area. So, and that's to I think Miami or something. But the only bad thing is, like I said, they got to start the games on the road. Now the Chargers are interesting, Tony. So the Chargers, their final, they're the opposite of the Lions. Their final 5 games, only 4 of them are at home for the Chargers, right? But they also kind of screwed the Chargers over because there's not one time where the Chargers will have back-to-back games, back-to-back consecutive games this season. So it's always home, away, home, away.
See, that's a thing where it's like, it's not so bad, right? So as soon as the schedule came out, I talked to my wife. We bought tickets to Chargers Bears, Sunday Night Football. And I was like,
Bears.
Chance to see Justin Fields, sign me up, like that. I think that would be really fun. Like, let's go, Brandon Staley. Can you stop the run? You got the best running quarterback from last year, and a feisty Bears team. I also looked at the Ravens game Sunday night. The thing is the stadium is so large. Look at you and your Bears fandom. The stadium is so large. Like, it's tough. Like, I wanted to buy tickets to the Cowboys Chargers game to try and help out in that one. It was so pricey. The tickets it was already going to cost us like $1,000 to go watch the Chargers Cowboys, unless we wanted to sit all the way up, which is fine. I'm still good with being in the stadium there, but like, it's still $250 for those tickets, and I'm not paying $250 to sit all the way up at the top. And that's the thing, is like, these teams come in and they can They just like raise the price so much that it's like, I'm not going. Like, I'm not going to go spend what I could go see 3 games for the price that it would cost me to get this kind of seats that I want to go watch Chargers Cowboys. I'll just stay at home for that price. So it's like, is the Chargers home field advantage, Joe? It's not like it is with other teams yet. It moved in a positive direction last year. I think we could all admit that. It's like, Chargers had more fans at their home games last year, and the more that they win, that will get better. But you're still going to have such a transplant city that you're going to get a lot of fans from those areas in those games. Like, you just will. There will be a lot of Bears fans out here. There's a ton of people from Chicago. When the Patriots are out here, there's a lot of people from the Boston, New England area. They fill it up. The same thing with all the Cowboys and Raiders every time will fill up LA stadiums, because there are so many people that were either fans from that before, or they are just in this area automatically. So it's tough. I'm happy with how the Chargers schedule is laid out, for sure. Like,
Harrison said he hates the upper deck. Harrison, I don't know where you've set, but sometimes the upper deck is some of the best football atmospheres in the world.
I do think SoFi has a great view, right? Like, there's not really a bad seat in the house for me, but having watched games from up top and down by the field, like, there's just something about being like close down there by the field where it's like, I just feel a different level. So
okay. So here's the difference, because you and I we've done the same thing, and we've said it in multiple stadiums, high and low, in a lot of stadiums. If you're sitting low, you feel like you're more part of the game, I think, and you're cheering, you're doing stuff. And you're sitting up high. When you're sitting up in the upper seats, you actually get to see a lot more details of the game, of the wide receivers that are open, the holes that open up for the running backs, and you're like, oh, look, there it goes. So you'll see it. And I try to teach my son Jake that. We were sitting there during the Kansas City Charger game last year. It was Sunday night game. And I was like, Jake, just watch the holes. And we set up at the top, and we were like, watch the holes. And he started to realize, like, yeah, you can. So it just depends on how you want to watch the game and what you want to see during the game and where you want to sit. But to me, just being in the stadium is a great atmosphere anyways.
Oh, there's a perfect example of that. So I was at the Chargers Seahawks game last year, and the vantage point I had, I was like, oh shit, you got two people coming to the edge. It was like sort of a zone stretch play or whatever they had with Kenneth Walker. And the angle that I had, I go, oh, he's going to get stuffed for like a 2-yard loss. He hit a 59-yard touchdown run. And when I rewatched the game the next day, me and Mike will watch the all 22 of the Chargers games and like really get nerdy about what's going on. They never had a chance to stop him. Like, it was blocked so well, it was perfectly executed, but I couldn't see that from my vantage point. And I just am like, I'm in the stadium being like, what the happened just now? Like, how is that possible? But when you watch the replay of it, you're like, oh, this was blocked perfectly, and the Chargers never really had a chance. They just like, all they had to do was block down Asante Samuel, 180 pounds, and smock, there he goes, and Kenny Walker's house call. So
yeah, well, it just depends. I love sitting everywhere, and to me,
I watched Kyler Murray from that too. I went to the Rams game with my brother and my nephew, and watching Kyler Murray from that advantage, like, you see how much faster and a better athlete he is from that vantage point. You're just like, well, that guy's gonna that guy. No, nobody's getting him.
So this year, I wanted you said you already bought Bears tickets. That's the one game I was thinking about going to, was Bears Chargers. And sitting up high in the seats up with Jake and just watching Justin Fields do his work from up there. Like, I don't know. I don't know where you're sitting, Tony, but I think I'm going to sit there and watch that game.
Yeah, so I got the tickets from my brother-in-law, so my wife and I are going to be sitting down there field level. I am looking at potentially getting tickets to either the Ravens game.
See, that's so many good games at the AFC.
Yeah, there's a lot of great games on the schedule. Potentially the Lions, but that one maybe not so much. And then when it comes down to the division is on the line, week 18, I'm going to support my boys against Chiefs Kingdom. Like, I will paint myself in powder blue when it comes down to week 18. Chargers could potentially win the division in week 18, Joe. I will look like a Smurf in week 18 if that's what needs to be. Like, whatever it takes for that to get over the hump, for the Chargers to win the division. Let's go.
All right, so here's one team, Tony. As immediately as the schedule came out, I told you about this team, and we started talking about it, and then you started dissecting it even more and found more stuff about this team. And this team, I think, played above their head last year. I don't know how good they're going to be again this year, but here it is, the New York Football Giants, Tony.
Okay, everybody's talking about this, and rightfully so. This is the most brutal. I have no idea what the Giants did. Like, is this payback for some sort of like Brian Flores, Brian Daboll hiring? Like, were they like, I just don't know. I'd never seen anything like this. In the first week of the season, they play 3 games in, what is that, 11, 12 days? And 2 of them are on the West Coast. Like, that's crazy to me that is the schedule that you have. Then 3 consecutive road games. And I get it. Like, the NFC this year, they only get 8 home games, and the other teams get, the AFC gets 9 home games, NFC gets 8 home games. That's how it was last year. And that's why you're seeing a lot of these schedules ending the way they are for the NFC. I think the Chargers had something similar to that last year, where they ended with like 3 of 4 on the road or whatever it was. So that's going to happen. That's going to work out that way. But I'm looking at this and I'm like, wait, so then they have 2 other back-to-back West Coast road games where they get the Jets at home, and then what is that? They get Raiders and Cowboys where they got to be West back-to-back road games. Yeah. So, like, I look at this schedule for the Giants and I'm like, and it's not just when they're playing or where they're playing. To open up with the Cowboys, if the Niners figure out that situation, Seahawks, Dolphins, like that Dolphins game is in early October. That could be one of those games where it's 90 degrees and the sun's beating down on you and you're suffering heat stroke on the sidelines, potentially there. And then the next week you go to Buffalo, who knows, could be a snowstorm, could be the opposite direction, like it's
Yeah, but you could possibly start 1-5 with
easy.
the teams that they're playing, and the brutal schedule of what you're doing. Like, okay, you get to play Arizona on Sunday. Then you got to not only do you got to stay at the West Coast, now you got to play one of the top teams in the NFC 4 days later. Like, if it was reversed, it would be a little. I would say it would be a little easier playing the Cardinals on Thursday night than playing the 49ers. But do you see Danny Dimes' face right here? He's like, I'm done. I'm already done. Like, this is a brutal schedule. And then you even like towards the end, Tony, you finish with the Rams and the Eagles in week 18. Like, okay, finally you get to go home for 2 games. But let's bring the Rams, who some people they might not be the same Rams as they were 2 years ago, but when Sean McVay is bringing a team in, he's bringing a team, and they're going to come in ready to play. And you got the Eagles, and then when you play the Eagles, you're playing the Eagles almost back to back. So it's Eagles, Rams, Eagles.
Yeah, some might say that Sean McVay will even bring a quarterback in on 2 days' notice and beat you. I mean, like he's that kind of a guy. And to end with the Eagles, it feels like there could be a lot on the line for that game too. The Eagles also have a very tough schedule. Like I looked at it, it's a first place schedule. It is put together where the Eagles they're gonna have to bring it, and they're gonna have Super Bowl expectations and the Jalen Hurts contract. But I think the Eagles have enough veterans and such a dynamic roster. They're still going to be really good. But I just saw this and I was like, this is just going to make for conversation that Daniel Jones was not worth the money, right? Like that's going to be the talk, once we get into the Dolphins, week 4, week 5, people are going to be saying, if it goes south, if it goes bad. Now there's a chance that the Giants could come out and just dominate these games, right? Like they could be amazing, right? That's the great thing about football. And then it's like, oh, the Giants were really smart about it. But the other side of it, just the way the internet works with the amount of hatred there's just going to be Danny Dimes memes, people laughing about how overpaid he is and all of that nonsense. I just think that this is one of the rougher schedules I can really remember. I think there was a few years ago where the Chargers had something similar where they were like flying all over, like flying back and forth, East Coast and whatever. Like they flew 8,800 miles in 1 year. Like it was crazy the amount of traveling they were doing. And when I was younger, there was another really bad schedule I think the 49ers had at one point during the Mike Singletary era, where it was like it just was brutal where they were. Like they were in Miami one weekend and then they were playing Buffalo the weekend after that. We're just flying southeast, northeast. They do the best they can. I would like to think that, but rough.
So here's a couple more tidbits on the schedule. Seattle Seahawks will travel the most of any other team in the NFL this year. They're going to travel 31,600 miles this season, Tony. But then again, they're up in that little West Coast area, which is pretty far to fly. Strength of schedule, you already mentioned it. Eagles are number 1, have the worst strength of schedule. Dolphins are number 2, right behind them. So Eagles and Dolphins are up there with strength of schedules, which is just based off of win totals from last year, guys. Nothing major. With number 32, the easiest schedule supposedly is the Falcons, the Saints, and the Texans. So they supposedly have the easiest schedule of all of them. So you got those little tidbits right there for everybody wondering at home of the strength of schedule and who's traveling the most this year.
So I think that one of the things that you look at with the strength of schedule is like, what's the validation there? What did those teams do? Did they increase at quarterback, right? Like that's something I look at. So the Falcons having an easy strength of schedule, I think Derek Carr is an upgrade. I think Bryce Young is an upgrade. So like that's 2 tougher quarterbacks that they have to play. I think having to play Frank Reich and the coaching staff he put together, that makes it tougher. So I don't necessarily think the Falcons are in that area, but when I look at the strength of schedule for the Eagles, I still go, oh no, that's pretty tough. Well, like the Jaguars, when you look at it, they won the division. They have a first place schedule, but they're still getting like I think they get Lamar Jackson at home, they get Patrick Mahomes at home, they get Joe Burrow at home, I believe. Like they're getting a lot of the elite upper level franchise quarterbacks. I think they're getting them all in Duval, which is a benefit to them. But if you have a first place schedule, like how is that? How are you not playing any of those games on the road? Like I was just looking at it because I have the Jaguars as one of my primetime games. Spoiler, one of my favorite primetime games. They make it on the list as a game that I can't wait to see. But I was just looking at the schedule. I was like, this feels kind of nice for the Jags here to be catching all these QBs in Jacksonville, and instead of having to go try and beat them in their backyard. Adam, how you feeling about your Saints this year? Because I'm still undecided on that, on where I'm headed, where I'm leaning for that. Yes, again, for those listening to the audio only version of this, Adam Lewis, NFL content, go find him. I'm not even sure what to plug. I'm not sure what the name is of the show right now, but does great work. Talks a lot about Saints, a lot about the NFL, and I'm curious to see what you think of your Saints, their schedule, their chance.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do our breakdown shows pretty soon, and yeah, I'm that's one division that's gonna be up in the air for me as of right now, looking at it. So
We're not gonna have to, but we will do them last minute.
we have to, Tony, because I have to prove how much smarter I am at picking teams and division winners than you are.
I'm the back-to-back champ, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Back-to-back champ.
Back-to-back. Dude, I run it back every year.
Here is the Monday night schedule that I'm putting up on the screen for people that are watching us on YouTube. Here's this is all Monday night games. As you can see, some of them have the double headers that Tony was talking about earlier. Some great matchups here and there. Week 18 is to be determined, but it is going to be a double header as well. I like the Week 18 double header. What I don't like is I didn't like the Monday Night Football on playoff week. I didn't like that. But, I mean, you get what you get, and they're trying to new stuff every once in a while. But here it is, guys. Look at these. These are the Monday night matchups, what everybody's looking for. Get ready on Monday night for your teams. You can see the greatest team in the NFL playing on October 9th right there and October 30th. 2 Monday night games for that badass franchise there in Las Vegas.
Yeah, so this is when I looked at the Monday night schedule, I saw the Jags Falcons on there. But it's ESPN Plus. It'll be the game where I got to wake up super early just so I can cheer on Desmond Ridder.
Which is there's one game that I'm all for the NFL making their money with all this stuff, but I don't know how much I like the exclusive content of only being on this channel, only being on Amazon Prime, only being here. It's kind of like I want to, and then like I'll download an app and sometimes it won't work because I'm out of it's supposed to be showing in my network and I can't watch it. That's the kind of stuff. Give me the game. I want to watch the games. And if I can't, and I'm paying for Red Zone or whatever I'm doing, it needs to be on there so I can see the games.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's getting a little out of control. The NFL is making money, and they're about making money. And if they can sell that, they announced that, it used to be NFC on Fox, AFC on CBS. Now games are just sort of like up for grabs, Wild West. Like we're going to pay to have these games on our network. I just think at some point, like we kind of what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, like I'm a dinosaur for them. Like they don't really care about how I'm consuming football. And more things are going to be going the YouTube streaming routes. They're going to be going on these platforms where they're going to put their own money into producing something because they paid money to have it exclusively on their platform. And that's how they're going to be trying to drive numbers and content. Now, the only way that those people are going to continue to do that is if that drives their subscriptions up, and how long those subscriptions are staying. Are they losing those viewers as soon as football season's done, or as soon as they're, like CBS had that for a while. Like you could get games only on the app or something like that. And I would subscribe just to get the games I wanted to see on there, and then I would be done with it. Like I would never get the CBS Plus, whatever it was. It's interesting, and they're trying to figure it out. At some point, it might just be like a buffet, like a la carte, where you just you buy the games that you want to see directly through whatever your preferred platform is. But I think if they eventually start to open it up, where they give more access to people to use their stuff, I think that's the one mistake they are making, is that the younger generation keeps getting in trouble for using the content. They keep getting videos flagged or things put down. It's like, no, you should be encouraging young people to make videos, to be spreading the word. As long as they're not doing things that are defamatory or putting players down or editing things to make the product look bad, you should be wanting them to get the word out there to younger people in their spheres that you wouldn't typically reach. Like, you don't need to get the Just for Men crowd, my crowd. Like, doesn't matter. We're going to find the games. It's already beaten into us that we love football. If we survived the concussion scandals and all these other things, like, we will still watch football.
We got hit, Tony. We get hit all the time for copyright stuff all the time. Like, even just having these logos. NFL doesn't even like having you have these logos on the. But we're building the NFL brand for them. Like, they already have their brand, but we're building it up for our audience and talking about football, which is in a good way for them. I don't understand why they get mad with just showing their logos, but the NFL sometimes is all about money. But if you're looking at this Monday night schedule, Tony, I like it. One thing I really like about it, and I mentioned to you earlier, is they're not the same teams back to back to back to back, and some different teams. You got the Detroit Lions on there. You got some different variety of teams on there that we're gonna like. I forgot to talk about one team, Tony, that I wanted to talk about. So if you have anything else to say about Monday night,
nope. You go on to what you want to talk about.
So my other thing that I want to hit up on is the New York Jets. Everybody's talking about Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets. And we mentioned this when the schedule came out in our little group text, and we said, look at welcome to New York. Welcome to the AFC, Aaron Rodgers. Your first game is against Buffalo. Then you play the Dallas Cowboys. Then you play the Patriots. Then you play the Chiefs. Then the Broncos and the Eagles before you finally get your bye week. That's a tough opening schedule for the New York Jets, because after their bye week, it's the Giants, the Chargers, the Raiders, the Bills, the Dolphins. Like, bam, you're getting hit hard. Like, Aaron Rodgers better come ready to play.
No, I agree with you. And there's a spot in there where it's like 3 tough games in a row, and then you look at it, you go, well, they get the Broncos. Yeah, but now you're getting the Broncos in Denver. Now you're going to elevation in the early part of the season where Denver's a tough place to play. Then you're also going to get the mixture of all the talk all week long is going to be about Nathaniel Hackett returning. And there's a little part of me that's thinking to like, Aaron Rodgers is going to want to make Nathaniel Hackett look good. He's going to want to be humming that day, and Denver is going to have a good defense. Like, it's a really tough schedule to start for the Jets. I think there is still opportunity for them to be really good. Like, they have the Patriots early on, and you go, oh, the Patriots aren't very good. But I mean, this is a super fire take from Adam Lewis saying Broncos to the AFC title game.
Money down right now if that's your hot take. Broncos to the AFC title game is his hot take.
That's a Saints fan who has a lower back tattoo of Sean Payton. Like, hey, there it is. Good, yeah, good for him, Sean. Oh, he's even putting it in there. He's even saying it. But I think that, like, they get the Patriots in week 3 or 2 or whatever on their schedule, and it's like, the Patriots, people don't think they're going to be great. But when was the last time the Jets beat the Patriots? Like, it feels like forever ago since they won a big game against the Patriots, and I think that is a big game. You get to see Belichick really craft something to go after a Jets team that he doesn't like, that has a quarterback that I think is really worthy of him going, hey, I'm still that guy defensively. So like, and the Patriots did beat the Jets last year on the craziest that punt return or whatever to win 10-3. That was wild.
14 games in a row that New England has beat the Jets, right?
Yeah, I did hear a stat that somebody threw out there. They said 7 times or 7 seasons in a row the Patriots have won, and I was like, that can't be right. That's just got to be hyperbole. Like, it can't really go back 14 straight victories.
Yeah, 14 straight.
Come on, Jets, Jets, bleh, get it together.
Speaking about the AFC East as well, one thing schedule makers through the Dolphins a little bone here, Tony. I don't know if you saw this in the Dolphins schedule. Just going, trying to remember some of the notes. The Dolphins, they weren't good in cold weather last year, right? They weren't good. Well, the schedule makers, they must have figured that out somehow. And in the last 5 weeks of the schedule, of the NFL schedule, the Dolphins don't have to go play in the cold weather. They get to play right there in Florida, and their only one game that they got to travel to is Baltimore. So they're not playing those cold, snowy games in Buffalo or anything like that late in the season.
Yeah, Baltimore could obviously be cold at that time in the year, but it's good. I think that they want the Dolphins to be good. They want the Chargers to be good. They want football to succeed in Los Angeles, and right now the Chargers, as far as they're concerned, I think, have the better shot at success. They see a direction for that because the team has Herbert, and they want the Dolphins to be good. Like, they want to have a big, successful franchise in Miami. Like, it's a big city. They want to be able to capitalize on these markets. So, good position. I hope that those kind of things don't factor into it. I hope that they're just looking at, like, how can we put the most compelling product on a week-to-week basis where each week we are scheduling 4 to 5. I have to see these games.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things that I love to do on Monday is I'll go in, I'll get on the treadmill, and NFL will have all of the game highlight packages put together, and they put it into a playlist on YouTube, and I will just hit play on that. I'll get on the treadmill, and I'll walk for an hour and a half and just watch all of these games again, like, so I can see all of the plays that were noteworthy in there, and that to me it's one of my favorite days. It's one of my favorite workouts, just walking on the treadmill and rewatching a bunch of football that I already watched the previous day is so much fun to me.
So before we get into your top 5 games that you want to see or primetime games that you want to see, I got one more good. Let's end it with a good note for the Houston Texans, Tony. Let's end it with a good Houston Texans fan. If you're a Houston Texans fan out there, there's one good thing about your schedule. And starting week 2, they play 6 of their next 7 games against teams that didn't make the playoffs. So you play the Colts, the Steelers, the Falcons, the Saints, the Panthers, and the Buccaneers, all in those times. So if the Texans are going to do anything this year, they're going to have an early start to it.
I think the Texans are going to be sneaky competitive this year. They were last year. I like DeMeco Ryans as a coach, and if they can get CJ Stroud to be just sort of like, I guess the reason I really like him is because I keep reading more about, like, well, the Shanahan system is going to be installed here, and this is going to be a very run-friendly offense and a very easy completions for CJ Stroud. It's like, well, if that's the recipe that they're going with, then great for them. Like, is Slowick going to be able to be as successful as Shanahan? I mean, we're going to get to find out. But Damian Pierce becomes somebody that's more interesting there. I forgot to look and see who the depth at running back that they have there. I think the wide receiver room is better than people give it credit for. It's not great, but I think it's better than people give it credit for. So the Texans are going to be competitive. I still would probably project their win total to be somewhere around 5. But fun and interesting. I think CJ Stroud makes them interesting. I think DeMeco Ryans being a first-year head coach makes them interesting. And Will Anderson. Like, that is, I'm tuning in for that. I wasn't really tuning in for Davis Mills last year and Jerry Hughes. I tuned in for Damian Pierce because that was my guy from the pre-draft process. But I'll watch it. I don't really care what it is. All right, Joe, you ready for my top 5
Yeah.
primetime games?
Yeah.
All right, these are the 5 primetime games that I am looking forward to watching. I put them in order, and I'm going to start with number 5. The 5th most anticipated primetime game for me is Monday Night Football Week 13, Bengals Jaguars. Like I think that they're going to hype that game up so much, and there'll be tons of fantasy implications. I know I shouldn't factor that in, but for real football, I think some potential seeding implications and stuff will be on the line in that matchup in Week 13.
Okay.
Number 4, Thursday Night Football is also Week 13, if I didn't say that, Seahawks versus the Cowboys. Another potential later in the season seeding situation where the Seahawks are starting to really go, oh, they're for real. They're going on the road and they're beating a defense that's good. You get like Dan Quinn got his start in Seattle. He's molding that defense, the Seahawks defense. Did they come to fruition with all the talent they have there? Number 3, most anticipated game, primetime game I want to see, Week 7, Dolphins versus the Eagles. We get to see, as long as Tua is healthy, a Dolphins offense that has so much speed on it, and an Eagles defense that should, again, be loaded and be able to get after the quarterback and be able to get hits on Tua. I think that, to me, is exciting with the Dolphins secondary going up against, you're going to get Jalen Ramsey and Zay Howard, and they drafted Cam Smith. Like that Dolphins secondary is good against A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. Like that to me is very intriguing. I got to put my boys in here. Monday Night Football Week 9, Chargers, Jets. I'm begging for a beatdown on this one. I hope that this game is similar to the Miami Jets Monday Night Football game from last year. Similar outcome, effect, and everything with an even bigger margin of victory. And then the game that I want to see the most is the Super Bowl rematch. Yeah. Monday Night Football, Week 11, Eagles and the Chiefs. Because I think these are two teams that I don't remember the last time, or if it has ever happened, that two teams have met again in the Super Bowl the next year, like the same two teams. Like maybe it happened like early on in the history of Super Bowls. But these two teams both have, I think, a coach. And for the Eagles, they have a GM to me that's like willing to do anything. It's like, oh, trade deadline, what do you need? Available free agents that might be able to help us? What do you need? Like, what's going on? Like, he's going to make moves for them to try and keep them relevant and competitive. And it's the Chiefs. So let's go. I'm ready for that. Again, top 5 most anticipated games of the NFL season. Week 13, Bengals, Jaguars. Week 13 also, Seahawks, Cowboys. Week 7, Dolphins, Eagles. Week 9, Monday Night Football, Chargers, Jets. And Monday Night Football, Week 11, Eagles, Chiefs. Those are my 5 most anticipated games I want to see this year. It's going to be great.
So what's going on? Here's a few games that I'll throw out there too.
Let's do
November 5th, Bills, Bengals. The game that never finished last year. We finally get to see it. We'll see that game. October 8th, Cowboys, Niners. Hate fest. Everybody all of us hate on the Niners. There's a lot of people that hate on the Cowboys. You get both teams, and it doesn't matter who wins that game because we're all happy that somebody lost that game, right? So that's another game. I think I believe it's week 1, September 10th, Dolphins, Chargers. I think that should be a good game, hopefully coming at it. 49ers and Eagles. The only reason I want to see that game now, Tony, is that's December 3rd. The only reason I'm starting to want to see the Eagles 49er game, and I didn't have much thought of it on the rematch. I wasn't really thinking about it until Kyle Shanahan came out, and it feels and he said, that he wants that game later on in the season, and he wants to play the Eagles at 100% and all this stuff. And then we're like, you and I are like, well, when's the last time the 49ers have ever been 100% that late in the season to begin with? But it's just like, I think that the 49ers have allowed the Eagles to be in their head all offseason. And I just want to – I don't know why I want to see that rematch, but that's a rematch I want to see part of the game. And it's just something that I've been looking forward to. So that's another game that I have out there. I'm not really high on some of these Jets game like everybody wants to see, but one other one that could be interesting is the Panthers versus the Colts, which is not a big marquee name, but you got Bryce Young versus Anthony Richardson, which could turn into a good game. So that just seeing two young stars go at it would be a good thing for me, a good matchup I want to watch.
I agree. I totally agree with you. I didn't have the Niners in any of my games that I want to see because, again, we don't know who the quarterback is. Like if I knew anything about that, then the Niners would be in there because they're so intriguing. But I couldn't do it. Rookies matchups are always fun. They always hype it up like it's going to be the difference, but really it's like which one is just going to make less mistakes when we see them out there on the field at the same time. Like which one is not going to be overwhelmed early on in their career. But I'm here for it. I'm really rooting for Anthony Richardson.
So, well, I think we hit a lot of topics, a lot of things on the schedule that people should be happy with, little tidbits here and there. And just to let you guys know that you might not see it on the schedule, but February 11th of 2024, the Raiders are scheduled for a home game with the opponent not yet determined, but it will be showing up there.
That's hilarious. They will be. They do have an appointment. They have an appointment to cater my official Super Bowl party. That's what they have. FTR forever. Family, trust, respect. This has been the MJT football podcast show thing. I'm starting to sound like Ross from Friends. Myself, Tony Tucker, Joe Morley, NFL Mike not here. Hopefully we'll be back in the next show. Please consider hitting the subscribe button, telling a friend, anybody wants to talk football with us. Leave your thoughts in the comments of the video here. We cherish them dearly. Very, very dearly. And yeah, till next time, till next week when we come up with something absurd to talk about, or we find more NFL news to speculate on, or say foolish things about this entertainment and pastime that we love so much. Everybody, have a great week. Peace. Happy Mother's Day out there. Call your mother. Tell her you love her, for crying out loud. This woman did everything for you. You love your mother. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. I almost forgot. I'm so sorry, Mom.
You're going for a husband of the year right there, Tony.
There it is. Still number one.